The final rookie profile for our big three wide receivers in the 2026 class. We're breaking down Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. John, he's always in this conversation with Carnell Tate, with Mekhi Lemon. But I think he is the most difficult player to truly break down and analyze. He could end up easily being the best value out of those three guys, but he is by no means a home run pick. To get into his value, we're going to break down his prospect context, understand how he got to this point in the NFL draft process. We're going to look for those key analytic indicators. We're absolutely watching some all-22 film, and then we're going to package it all together and give some actionable fantasy football advice. Folks, do us a huge favor. If you learn one thing from this episode, if you have been enjoying these rookie profile series, give the video a like. It takes 1 second. It really helps us out. And consider heading on over to patreon.com/rookiebigboard. Support what we're doing here and get ahead of your league mates with unmatched depth and accurate insight into our rookie rankings, Devy rankings, dynasty rankings, personalized advice in the Rookie Big Board Discord, and so much more. Without further ado, John, let's get into Jordan Tyson. Really exciting wide receiver out of Arizona State.
Since I have been doing the profiles, there have been three big Sun Devils who I've graded at the wide receiver position: N'Keal Harry, Jalen Strong, and Brandon Ayuk. And Harry and Ayuk were both first-round picks, albeit later in the first round. And Jordan Tyson has earned a higher grade in my analysis than the other three players I just named. So who is this young man out of Arizona State? He was a three-star recruit in high school, and he played both basketball and football. And as a senior on the gridiron, he had 80 catches for 1,512 yards and 12 touchdowns at the high school level. That is really impressive numbers. And I found out in my research that his brother, Jalen, he plays in the NBA after being selected with the 20th pick overall in the 2024 draft by the Cleveland Cavaliers. So there is definitely high-level athleticism in the Tyson family. And after high school, Tyson enrolled at Colorado, and he played as a true freshman. He had 22 catches for 470 yards and 5 touchdowns. And against, ironically, Arizona State, he was the first Buffalo to record over 100 receiving and 100 punt return yards in a game, earning all Pac-12 honors for the week. However, he tore an ACL, MCL, and PCL late in that first season, and it caused him to miss the 2023 campaign after transferring to Arizona State. But 2 years ago, he exploded on the college football landscape. He was named to the All-American third team. He had 75 receptions for over 1,100 yards and scored 10 times. The 10 touchdowns were the 6th all-time in Sun Devil history and the most since Strong in 2014. He collected the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year award, and he recorded 5 games with over 100 yards receiving. And he was the darling of college fantasy football over the summer last year. And unfortunately, last year, he endured an upper body injury against Arizona in the 9th game of the year. And he missed the remainder of the campaign before declaring for the NFL draft. Before his injury, the lean and sleek competitor had 61 catches for 711 yards and 8 scores. He had been named to the Blitnikoff Award watch list, and he did make the All-Big 12 first team last year. Matt, I'm really excited to look at some film of Tyson. Let's show the viewers what he can do.
Yeah, excited is the right word. So let's get into it here. One thing that you're going to notice as you're watching this film, and I want you to pay attention to, he will win at all 3 levels of the field. And
Nice.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Excellent example right away of his ability to win in traffic. Yeah, look at this. I mean, really nice extension for that ball. There really isn't a pass thrown his way that it doesn't feel like he's got a shot to catch. Really nice example. And we're going to watch this one from the other angle here, this touchdown reception. I mean, he wins with the first step, and
he was wide open.
Yeah, and he moves so well downfield. Once he's got that step, they really can't catch up to him.
And look at those hands and how quick he translated or transferred into running back on that throw.
Yes, he catches the ball very well up in stride. He moves upfield. But look at that. Excellent example of adjusting, coming back to the ball. Good body control along the sideline here. Again, right, what we're seeing and what I really want folks to take away from Jordan Tyson, he wins in so many different ways.
Yes, all three levels.
Yes. And another good example of that yak potential here, there's a few examples you'll see. He doesn't actually bring in the ball, but he's got really nice vertical skills. He makes a play even on these balls that he really has no business going after. And, for some context for folks, really nice slant route there,
Yes.
in being able to separate on the first step in the red zone. We're going to watch another angle of this. To put it in context here, I know you're thinking Sam Levitt, he was a big name in the college transfer portal. He really was not super accurate this past year in 2025. So you could see, look at that. Yeah. Look at that. Excellent concentration there. Ball's thrown behind. He tips it up. He brings it back down. My point being here, I think he elevated the quarterback play of this offense.
Oh, I completely concur with you. And I've actually reevaluated Levitt after watching Jordan Tyson tape. I wasn't as impressed.
Yes. Really nice. Look at the fluidity there, John. You mentioned it earlier. Yeah. He really does well to move upfield. Ooh. He makes a play on that ball, dude. He's got no business making a play on that ball.
No, Levitt puts him in a bad position a lot on tape.
Yeah. And I think, if you're thinking about, okay, how does that translate to the next level? If you're thinking, if he ends up with a top half of the league quarterback, he's going to make those big plays. He's going to be led the right way.
Oh, I think so. And I think a good quarterback will put it in a position where he can use his arms and body control. Look at that, how he snatched that so easily above his head.
Yeah, really nice hands here. I mean, a good example of him continuing downfield after the catch here. One more for Jordan Tyson to finish it out. Nice little out route there. Good footwork, good balance. He plays under control. I don't think that he is the fastest player, but he's quick. He's agile, and he accelerates. He gets to his top speed fast, and that matters when you're talking about his ability to win at the next level. He attacks the ball. That's part of the reason he's got reliable hands. I think, a big theme that we saw was his ability to win in traffic, his ability to win over the middle of the field, good vertical athleticism. I think one of the things that, when you're comparing Tyson to Lemon to Tate, he's not the largest receiver, but his vertical athleticism does extend his catch radius well. He feels bigger. It feels like he plays bigger than he measures in. Really nice body control. We saw some good examples of dig routes there. I love his footwork on the curl routes. I like his ability to separate on the comeback routes. Wins at all three levels of the field. We didn't really cut it up here in terms of this film, but if you watch him, he's a pretty willing and technically sound blocker, which I know NFL teams will appreciate. And one thing I know, John, you keyed in on there, explosive change of direction ability.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot to like here with Jordan Tyson. For me, he's a very well-rounded player. And so he's a very interesting player. I talk about all the time. One of the things I do think separates the rookie big board process is our ability to, I'm always thinking, how does this player fit into a fantasy football projection sheet? Because we actually care about their actual fantasy football, production. What are they actually going to give to your roster? And Jordan Tyson, I mean, he's got a career 1.6% drop rate. He's got an 81% catch rate in between 0 and 9 yards. And so for me, those are two really nice green flag indicators. And that's going to put me in a projection sheet, without knowing his quarterback. That's going to put me in the 68 to 72% catch rate. That's very high for a rookie wide receiver. That's a really nice spot to be. He had 11.7 average depth of target in 2025. His career ADOT is 13.3. I think his quarterback play is going to swing my projection for him. But either way, between 11.5 and 13.5, like that's a really nice spot to be in.
Oh, yeah.
At the volume that I expect for him, which is probably somewhere between 90 and 105, 90 to 110 targets. And with that catch rate that I mentioned, if his ADOT is between 11.5 and 13.5, I mean, John, we're talking about 1,000 yards. We are talking about a high level producer. And it showed up on film, but the analytics back it 90 plus PFF grade at all three levels of the field. That's elite, folks. That is high end level. So the analytics like Jordan Tyson, the film likes Jordan Tyson. But John, I'm curious to hear your take on this because you've built out a nice model with some key benchmarks here when we're looking at stats. And we like to see green flags on both sides of it if we're going to get excited for a prospect here. So talk us through Jordan Tyson. Talk us through the wide receiver out of Arizona State.
If I was grading the three big receivers, and that's Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, and Carnell Tate, and we have videos if you want to go back and watch the Mekhi Lemon and the Carnell Tate video, I would have Jordan Tyson number one in the rankings based on the model. He's the only one of the three that hit 4 of the 6 key benchmarks. But when I do my rankings, I have to consider injuries, and that is going to hurt him a little bit in this process. Now, if he's the first one off the board, I think that tells us the medicals at the combine coming up. Yeah, the doctors cleared them. But we still have to see what the NFL teams are going to tell us about Jordan Tyson's injuries. But I'm not overly worried, Matt, because when I put him in the model, he hits 4 of those 6 key benchmarks.
Nice.
Catch percentage, man, 66%. Sam Levitt was not the most accurate quarterback. Jordan Tyson so many times had to break his route, put his body in a difficult position, extend his arms and expose his ribs, saved Sam Levitt a ton. So that catch rate is super impressive in context, and he cleared the benchmark. Team dominator, Matt, 34%. That is dominance, right? That is just clear dominance. Arizona State did not have a wide receiver who you had to worry about, and he cleared the team dominator. His receiving yards per team pass attempt, Matt, he's only 2.88. Clears my benchmark. Can you imagine if Levitt hit on 3 or 4 of those deep passes over the last 2 seasons each year, how Jordan Tyson's receiving yards per team pass attempt would have been even higher? And despite all the injuries, Matt, and it's not that bad, but he did have injuries, let's be honest with our viewers, he still had 158 career receptions. And the 2 that he missed on, they're not awful. 14.4 on yards per reception. My benchmark is 15, but he misses. We have to be honest about the numbers. And his ADOT, I'm looking for a benchmark of 12. He has 11.7. So, Matt, from an analytical standpoint, Jordan Tyson's incredible. I do love his film work. A little concerned about the injuries. What should fantasy footballers know when they're drafting this young man?
Well, let's put it all together here, John, right? Because that's what it's all about, that actionable fantasy football advice. You mentioned it here with draft capital. I think that's going to be a real talking point for Jordan Tyson. I've got him at day 1 mid in that 11 to 20 range.
That's more than fair.
Yeah, and maybe he goes top 10. I think that if a receiver goes top 10, I think Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon are more likely to go. But you made a really good point, John, about the health in the combine. And one thing I want folks to know, if a player is at the combine and being evaluated by a medical team, which, by the way, folks, that's kind of like the most important part of the combine. All this other stuff is fun and it is important, but the medicals are really what matters. If a team doctor evaluates Jordan Tyson and they don't like what they see, Jordan Tyson doesn't move down that team's board. He moves off that team's board, right?
Yeah.
Like medical is yes or no. So if a team drafting in the top 10 clears him, they're not going to not take him because of his medical history. Like, they have cleared that stage. So Will he be off boards? Possibly. He might be off 2 or 3 teams' boards. That might lower his draft stock a little bit, but I still think he's going to be a top 20 guy. We'll have to see how those medicals play out. Assuming he gets that top 10 draft capital, I think he is right there in that 103 to 106 range. It's exactly where I put Makai Lemon, right? In terms of 80 rookie superflex ADP projection, 103 to 106. It's the same exact thing for one quarterback because Fernando Mendoza, I think, is going to be the first quarterback. He's going to go after 106 in a one quarterback format. So it's exactly where I projected Makai Lemon. It's exactly where I projected Carnell Tate. And it is going to be a matter of flavor. Choose your preference. And for me, a big piece of this is going to come down to landing spot. Absolutely. But understanding him in isolation, John, it's really helpful for me. And I think it's really helpful for our viewers and our listeners to understand, how might this player show up production wise compared to a current NFL player, a current dynasty asset. And when I looked for a current comparison point for Jordan Tyson, I really locked in on 2025 Jalen Waddle. And
interesting.
Yeah, so Jalen Waddle, 100 targets. I mentioned 90 to 105 targets is where I thought Jordan Tyson was going to be. 64% catch rate. So that's maybe a little bit lower than where I'll have Jordan Tyson, but pretty similar. Jalen Waddle had 6 touchdowns. I think that's a pretty realistic projection for Jordan Tyson. He certainly wins after the catch, 910 yards. So that for me, in Jalen Waddle was wide receiver 24 last year. So I think wide receiver 24 to wide receiver 30 is a realistic year one projection for Jordan Tyson. In terms of projection confidence, I think he is low risk, right? If you are somebody who, you're sitting there with the 105 and you want to know that you are adding points to your starting lineup, right? Jordan Tyson is probably your guy over a Carnell Tate, right? Or a Makai Lemon who comes with more upside. But I do think Jordan Tyson comes with some upside. I could see him getting to wide receiver 12, 13, 14, overall on a season. But I think he starts as a wide receiver 2, 3 flex, which is not a bad spot to be. No. That is certainly not a waste of your 105 pick. I mean, that's an immediate contributor. I'm going to have exposure. I was more aggressive on my recommended exposure for Makai Lemon, but I want some Jordan Tyson. I'm not fading him. And again, because of that high floor play, like that does come with a lot of value. And John, I hope folks, as they're watching these videos, these rookie profiles, I hope they're finding a lot of value in them. And if you are, do us a huge favor, give the video a like, ask us some questions, like chop it up in the comments. We love to hear it. And seriously, support the show. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We have a ton more rookie profiles coming out. And if you want to support while getting ahead of your league mates, folks, we're just scratching the surface in terms of you can have access to my full scouting notebook, 20 traits graded for every single rookie prospect. You can get personalized advice in the Rookie Big Board Discord, the rankings, and so much more. John, we're going to be back real soon breaking down another key prospect to understand the value of this 2026 rookie class.